On behalf of the national carrier, I want to apologise.
This year, the national carrier's reputation for reliability has been trashed. Staff are demoralised and disillusioned. High-paid Qantas executives stand accused of undermining the airline through ruthless cost-cutting.
This is a corporate dictatorship. This is how the company behaves.
But Qantas will not accept that part of the problem stems from a deliberate corporate strategy to outsource jobs and cut costs.
It is gut-wrenching. It is gut-wrenching to see the company that we loved end up like this.
Qantas outsourced to several specialist ground handling companies, including Swissport, which took over the work in Sydney and Melbourne. By Easter this year, as passenger numbers grew, it was bedlam. Outsourced ground handling staff were struggling.
We're expected to do basically the tasks that the Qantas ground services did, but with a lot less numbers and experience. And as a result, we have a very high turnover rate that makes the already bad situation even worse.
We've now got all of these workers at third-party companies on the lowest possible minimum wages, no guarantee of what their hours or roster looks like in any given week, and the least secure form of employment.
This is not a shortage of workers that's the ultimate cause. It's a shortage of good, secure jobs. This is a structural decision by Qantas.
Ian was among the 1,700 workers who lost their jobs when Qantas outsourced ground handling. Even though he loved the job, he was appalled by the approach that Qantas took to health and safety during the early stages of the COVID outbreak.
They thought there was no need for us to clean the aircraft with masks on. We were just given a normal cloth, add a bit of water with it, clean the tables down, but their attitude was, she'll be right. Like even doing bathrooms. Overall, I thought that was pretty low. Behind the scenes, it's pretty disgusting.
SafeWork New South Wales slapped an improvement notice on Qantas after inspecting a plane which might have transported passengers with COVID-19. Theo Serematidis worked in the ground crew at Qantas in Sydney. He was a health and safety representative, formerly responsible for safeguarding the interests of his colleagues. Last October, SafeWork New South Wales launched a criminal prosecution of Qantas because of the way it treated him.
Quite frankly, Theo Serematidis is a hero of the pandemic. They stood him down, and that's still to this day the subject of court proceedings.
I thought it was so disgusting because he was looking after not just mine, but everybody who worked on the aircraft's interests, just to make sure we were safe on board. And management just didn't care less about him, and they've put him out to dry as a scapegoat, which really isn't the Australian way. You look after each other.
How does Qantas rank as an employer?
Well, I think it's fair to say Qantas is a militant employer. It's being prepared to take every angle under the Act. It's being prepared to take really destructive decisions in pursuit of the bottom line.
In 2011, Qantas took one of the most militant industrial actions the country has ever seen.
We have decided to ground the Qantas international and domestic fleets immediately. I repeat, we are grounding the Qantas fleet now.
The extraordinary move left tens of thousands of passengers stranded worldwide. It was a response to protracted union campaigns for new agreements with job security clauses.
Qantas inflicted massive damage on its own brand, on consumers and on the economy in order to engineer an outcome, and what it wanted was ultimately to be able to outsource its ground handling and other operations.
Last year, the federal court ruled that Qantas unlawfully terminated these workers and their 1,700 colleagues. It found that Qantas seized on a vanishing window of opportunity to retrench the workers when they were stood down during COVID. and before they gained the right to take lawful industrial action.
These workers have had marriage breakdowns. They've had to sell their houses and their properties. This is about a fundamental structural problem in aviation that has been deliberately created by Qantas over the course of the Joyce administration.
Under Alan Joyce's 15-year tenure, the airline has lost $1.9 billion. In that time as chief executive, he's earned around $125 million with bonuses. And since the pandemic, Qantas has handed $900 million back to shareholders after being the country's biggest recipient of taxpayer support.
This is a CEO who has presided over a management team that has destroyed the Qantas brand. And this is a CEO that will not be missed by the Australian public.
When you're constantly at war with your workforce, it's inevitable that you lose the trust not just of your workforce but of your customers and of the travelling public.
The only thing that will save it is for this new federal government to see through all of this, see through all of these Qantas tactics, see through this Alan Joyce spin and say enough is enough. We need to put an independent body in place that has got the capacity to look at all of the underlying issues in this industry.